Awesome. Hello, everyone. This is so incredible. So great to see you all. Well, this information that you're going to hear this morning, it was information like this that brought me to Juice Plus 8 years ago. The company's commitment to quality and putting that quality to the test. Their commitment to research at the highest level. And their commitment to health and solving everyday problems for people like me and families like mine made me want to be a part of what this company was doing. And I'm still proud today to be a part of what the Juice Plus company continues to do. 12 years ago, I became a pharmacist for one reason: to help people with their health. I managed a busy pharmacy in the small town I grew up in, the same pharmacy that 4 generations of my family had used. And pretty quickly, I realized I was sending my patients home with grocery bags full of medications every month. And something about that experience makes you think a little deeper about health and what are the factors that promote good health and vice versa. And then I started to think about my own journey with my physical health and what I had gone through with an autoimmune disorder, being diagnosed when I was 14 years old. And I could relate to my patients that I was seeing frequently in my pharmacy. And suddenly all of that clinical knowledge I gained in pharmacy school had names and faces. And that experience will make a person take a deeper dive into those kinds of questions like, what is good health really about? What are the things that make a person healthy? And most importantly for me at the time, what are the things that I could be doing to set my family up for success in the way of physical health? Because one of my greatest desires at that time in life was to have a healthy family. So after working long days in the community pharmacy, I'd go home and I'd spend time looking at research. I was looking at scientific published data, sometimes from massive meta-analyses, all pointing in one direction: nutrition. And specifically, the statistically significant protective effect of fruits and vegetables on all body systems. And I wish, I had the Juice Plus Science Institute, which we have today, to be able to reference that because it's a one-stop shop. But I was looking in all kinds of different sites. But what I realized is for us, it came down to nutrition. We were exercising, we were getting good rest, we were getting sunlight when we could. But what needed to change in my life at that time was nutrition. And specifically, I knew I needed a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, and not just sometimes, but every single day. So we did what any reasonable pharmacist would do after looking at data and being compelled to make a change. We went out and we bought a $400 juicer. And my husband would drive about an hour each way to get the highest quality produce around us. And we were spending about $90 every 5 days. That's about $18 a day, just for our ingredients. And this was 10 years ago. Imagine what that would be today. We were spending about an hour in our kitchen to prep and wash and juice and drink and then clean the juicer just to start our day. But that's what we were doing because we knew then the importance of everyday nutrition from a variety of fruits and vegetables. See, I had learned about the power of the pharmacy with an F and how the world's best pharmacy actually exists inside each and every single one of us. It's how we were created. We might not realize it, but our bodies are constantly organizing and carrying out these complex operations to maintain our health. And most of our internal functions occur outside of our awareness. For instance, we don't have to put a lot of effort into doing things like digesting our food or filtering our blood. And under most circumstances, our bodies can manage blood clots and fight off infections and repair their organs with their own natural chemicals. And taking full advantage of our body's internal pharmacy is the most effective way to care for our health. And it doesn't require us to make a lot of complex decisions, like I said, but our internal pharmacy does have some caveats for operating well. And first and foremost, a well-functioning pharmacy requires good nutrition, like I said. And that can look different for each person, but basically it involves eating foods as close to their natural source as possible. And there's literally hundreds of examples out there that I could give you, but I'll just give you one today, and it's flavonoids, like what you see on this picture. And it's a class of polyphenols found in pomegranates and grapes and berries. It's the anthocyanins in them that give them the beautiful colors. And these have been found to have an inverse relationship with cardiovascular disease. So in other words, the more you're going to get in your diet, the lower your risk of cardiovascular disease. They decrease blood pressure, they're anti-inflammatory, they relax the arteries. So it's the concept food is medicine. And I got excited about that. And it's the compounds in these plants that activate our internal pharmacies. So when I was introduced to Juice Plus, with everything that I had learned and my background in juicing, it made so much sense. Just a few minutes of looking at it closely and with an open mind, and I was completely blown away. I had never seen a product with this breadth of clinical research, published in 31 scientific journals. That's incredible. And then you have all the different benefits is shown. We're talking a 66% reduction in DNA damage, positively influencing over 1,600 genes over 8 weeks, providing antioxidant protection by up to a 528% increase in beta carotene over 28 days, improving circulatory performance by decreasing constriction after an unhealthy meal, which we cannot always avoid, right? It's not about being perfect. Improved immune function from students to the elderly, supporting metabolic health by enhancing insulin sensitivity, increasing lean body mass in adults, improving cognitive function, improved gut health. 21 different studies proving Juice Plus has excellent bioavailability, which is an increase in the micronutrients, the phytonutrients. Those are the vitamins, the carotenoids, the polyphenols that our bodies desperately need to thrive. And really, that's just scratching the surface. You can access all of the research on juiceplus.com, but it's the highest quality. It's safe, proven effective, and a company that's committed to continued improvement. So from this pharmacist's perspective, I am confident I can recommend it to every family. It's functional food, and it's offering solutions to give families daily nutritional support to bridge the gap that we have in our diets. But you know, as a wife and a mom and a sister and a friend, let's talk about how this plays out in real life, because what I began to see in myself and those that I love really changed the game for me. So when we talk about health, it really is a spectrum, right? So we have, from disease and illness down on this end of the spectrum, all the way to this end, which is optimal health, and everything else all in between. And I found myself at one point in my life down here on this end of the spectrum, which maybe some of you can relate to. But today I am so grateful to be much closer to this end of the spectrum. So most people are probably pretty, surprised to learn that at one point in my life, I had 3 spleens. You're only supposed to have 1. And I went from 3 to 0, which left me with a compromised immune system. And it had me, being prone to getting sick often and for prolonged periods of time. And that was just something that I was dealing with, and especially, working in the pharmacy and being exposed to sick people and all these different things that were coming in. But with making small changes every day and adding Juice Plus to my diet for over a decade now, I am healthier than I've ever been. And like I said, much closer to this end of the spectrum. And so what I've learned is that food is a weapon, and it can be used as either a weapon of mass destruction or a weapon of mass vitality, and that's the truth. And my husband, he had battled with allergies for his entire life, but he noticed after just a few months that his immune system was stronger and functioning better than ever, and we're so grateful for that. And so for us, it's been this systemic advantage, the conditioning impact of these foods that has compounded over time and made a massive difference in our health. And it's no surprise because we have 4 different published clinical studies proving that Juice Plus supports the immune system. So when I first learned about Juice Plus, we didn't have our own kids yet. But when I learned about the Healthy Starts for Families program and that we could sponsor a child for free, I immediately thought of my niece, Josie. She was 5 years old at the time, and she had struggled with her respiratory health ever since infancy. And I was so grateful that every time my Juice Plus came in, I could give Josie her Juice Plus as well. Today, she's 15 years old, and she's an elite high school athlete. She's grown to be fit, healthy, and strong. And we know that for her, as an athlete undergoing intense exercise consistently, those levels of inflammation and oxidative stress increase. But we know from the Juice Plus research that the capsules attenuate the increase in the markers of oxidative stress after exercise, even for up to 30 hours after exercise. That's incredible. Talk about a performance advantage. So as a sophomore in high school today, Josie is aware of how food impacts her body, what it means to fuel well, and she loves taking her Juice Plus every single day. She takes all 4 blends of her Essentials capsules and drinks her Complete or Perform every day. I mentioned earlier that one of my greatest desires years ago was to have a healthy family. And so getting on Juice Plus before getting pregnant and taking it every day during pregnancy was important to me because I knew I wanted that nutrition to condition my body and to help nourish our growing babies. From 2 pharmacists' perspectives, my husband and I loved seeing over 20 published clinical studies proving that bioavailability that I mentioned earlier, which is a measure of how much of an ingested substance gets into the bloodstream in the cells. And we have the studies proving the bioavailability from children to the elderly. And in my opinion, there is no more important of a time to nourish well. I once heard one of my favorite obstetricians say that what a mom eats during her pregnancy can affect her child's future children. So once our babies were getting a little older and starting to eat solids around 6 months of age, we started to open up the capsules and pour the capsule powders either directly into their mouths or right onto their food. And we looked at it as a way of training taste, literally training their taste buds to start to desire, the healthier foods by changing their microbiota. There is that deep connection between the gut and the brain. And we're so grateful that our children have acquired a healthy palate, totally different than what it looked like for me growing up. And the difference that we've seen in just 1 generation from my husband and myself to our children is incredible. And we really do attribute this to that one simple change of starting the Juice Plus habit early on. And then when our kids were about a year old, we were giving them the Complete every day. And before they could swallow their capsules, which they both do now, we would just open up their capsules or poke a hole in the Omega and just pour the powder and the Omega oil right into their Complete and start every day with that for breakfast. Today, they are 8 and 6 years old, and they know about nutrition, which is incredible to see that for young children. They've grown up in this community. They've learned from this community. And they know more about nutrition than I did in my 20s. And speaking of kids, I love talking about this because one of my favorite things is that Healthy Starts for Families program, where children can be sponsored with an adult order. And for over 20 years now, over 1.5 million families worldwide have participated in this program. And they're documenting how their families are making the shift toward better health. I absolutely love these results. So look at this. Kids are consuming less fast food and soda. They're visiting the doctor less. They're eating more fruits and vegetables. They're missing fewer days of school. They're drinking more water. And my personal favorite, they're taking fewer over-the-counter and/or prescription drugs. That is awesome. And again, you can access all of that at juiceplus.com. But this right here is daily nutrition support for the whole family. This tells me right here, when you look at the data. This tells me we need to be out there getting this in as many households as possible, in as many children's bodies as we can. Think about it. Think about teaching these kids today about nutritional habits, the difference that that's going to make, not only for them now, but when they're adults and for generations to come. So exciting. So the last story I want to share with you today is the most recent of our 8-year journey, and it's about my dad. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in July of 2021, and the first decision that he made after the doctors left his hospital room giving us the news was to finally get started on Juice Plus. He underwent a 10-hour surgery, to try to remove as much of the cancer as they could. And he had so much trouble, even before the surgery, being able to keep any food or any liquids down. But we were so grateful to have the Complete to help sustain him leading up to the surgery. And after the surgery, he came home to live with us so we could help take care of him. And he was not doing well. And even though they weren't able to remove all of the cancer, it had already spread to his lymphatic system. But basically through this surgery, they reworked his entire GI tract. And at this point, at our home, we couldn't even get him to take sips of water. He couldn't even tolerate it. And it was at that moment that I finally understood the purpose of that juicing journey all those years before, because I remembered he had a feeding tube and I could work with that, right? So I dug out that juicer and I started juicing fresh fruits and vegetables for him and opening up his plant capsules and the omegas and pouring them into his juices and then giving it to him through his feeding tube in that way. And the reason I did this is because I wanted my dad to have quality of life. Right? I wanted, for whatever time he had left, for him to feel as good as he could and to be able to do the things that he wanted to do. So by day 2, I was able to add Complete into the mixture and put that into his feeding tube as well. And after 2 days of this regimen, he got up off of our couch and walked all the way out to the end of our field and back. That's about 100 yards. 2 days. That right there is the power of the pharmacy. That's the power of the pharmacy. So he slowly recovered from that surgery, and his home health nurse that was coming every day told us that even at 69 years old and having been a smoker for his whole life, that he had recovered better than any patient she had ever cared for in over 20 years of caring for patients with that specific type of surgery. Yep, pretty amazing. So he was able to go home eventually and go hunting that winter and spend some really great quality time with us through the holidays. And in November of that year, we got this text from my dad telling us in our group chat about how grateful he was for his Juice Plus. And we were so grateful to get that message and to be able to support him in that way. You know, a lot of people would tell you that at that point, with that poor of a prognosis, what's it worth? And I say, everything. It's never too early and it's never too late to invest in your nutrition. Like I said, it's always worth it. And I wanted to give him the quality of life, the best quality of life that he could possibly have for the rest of the time that he had. And I believe that's what we were able to give him. You know, it was pretty incredible. He even experienced his eyesight, his blood pressure, his blood sugar improving, even despite everything he had been battling. We lost my dad in March of last year, right after his 70th birthday, about 8 months after his diagnosis. But I tell his story because I know if he were sitting here today, he would want you to know. Remember, it's never too early and it's never too late to invest in your nutrition. So for us, Juice Plus is a constant. It's the good during the good times and it's the good during the hard times. In my opinion, one of the biggest problems we have with our health is directly related to our nutrition. And after what I had learned about the power of the food at the end of our forks, I spent quite a lot of time as a pharmacist counseling patients and encouraging them to make lifestyle changes. But the problem is most people can't or won't do it. But what I love about Juice Plus is that it's simple, it's affordable, it's effective, it's an easy solution for the whole family. It's one that anyone can do. And by the way, it's the most thoroughly researched nutritional product in the world. Yes, so the research is a differentiator for sure. But when you see the research come to life in those you love and the people that you care about, it opens your eyes to the mission. And a person on a mission can make a big difference. But a group of people together on a mission can change the world. We are the leader in plant-based nutrition here at Juice Plus. We are. And we're only continuing to get better. So my charge for all of us here today, everybody out there, is let's go out there and make Juice Plus a household name. Thank you.
How many of you, let me see in the chat, by the way, I love how active you're being in the chat. I'm reading every single message. How many of you thought of at least 2 people that you wish were here to hear that presentation? Yeah, I see the hands in the audience. How about you at home? Yeah, and I did, you guys, I'm reading everything that you're writing, and I did see that you all want to know where in the world this presentation is going to be. I don't know if we are going to release the recording, but I do know it's going to be available in the Facebook group. So add people to this Facebook group and they can come back and watch this live, all right? Our next speaker is Dr. Tamara Sachs. She's a dear friend of mine. Tamara is a doctor. Dr. Tamara Sachs graduated with honors from Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City. Prior to obtaining her bachelor's degree in molecular biology and physiology, she studied naturopathic medicine in France. She has been a functional medicine doctor since 2003, preventing and treating the root causes, not just the symptoms. Please welcome my dear friend, Dr. Tamara Sachs.
Hey, my people. It's so nice to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christy. I have to go backwards. There we go. One more. So you heard from Christy that I do what's called functional medicine, and that's treating the root cause of things, not just the symptoms. How many of you all would like all of your doctors to treat the root causes of your problems, not just your symptoms? Yeah, that's why I call functional medicine medicine, just good medicine the way it should be. And a huge part of functional medicine is education. And I love teaching people how their body works, because I think that if you understand how your body works, you're going to make better decisions for yourself and your family. So my intention today is to teach you a little something about health span. Our lifespan, of course, is how many years that we live, but our health span is how many of those years we're active and fit and sharp and independent. And it turns out that our health span has a lot to do with something called our mitochondria. So I'm going to tell you a little something about our mitochondria, and I'm going to tell you 6 things that the science of mitochondria has taught us about health span and how to improve our health span. So mitochondria, you might be asking, what is that? That little thing in orange. It's the powerhouse of the cell. It's the part of our body that makes energy from food. And it's quite a remarkable thing. And we have hundreds or thousands or more of mitochondria in every cell. Every animal on this planet is powered by mitochondria. And we've known that for about 50 years, but in the last 15 years, there's a whole bunch of new research out there about the role of mitochondria in aging and in lifespan. And this mitochondria has an interesting origin. Eons ago, when in our world there were just plants and one-celled organism, there was this little bacteria that had this unique and special skill of knowing how to transform energy, transforming from one kind of energy to another. And that little bacteria somehow teamed up with a one-celled organism and started providing that one-celled organism with a steady supply of energy. And that is what has allowed life on this planet to get more complex. But they were bacteria before they were mitochondria. And so they still have bacterial DNA. Mitochondria have their own DNA, just a little bit, just enough to make the structures that they need to make energy from our food. But it's still kind of odd that we have bacterial DNA that run the engine of our cells. So this DNA has a limited ability to repair itself, but mitochondria can repair itself. They can fuse, they can join, and they can split off sections that have been damaged or injured. Now, just to remind you, our DNA, what we think of as the book of life, our genes, that's totally separate. It's in the nucleus of the cell, in the middle of that little blue blob on your screen. That's where our genetic material is held, and we can repair our genetic material pretty well. But mitochondria are separate from the nucleus of the cell, and their DNA should remain separate because bacterial DNA in the circulation doesn't make the immune system very happy. A little bit actually can trigger healing, but a lot can send us into a bit of a tailspin. The other, I think, fun fact about mitochondria is that we only inherit them from our mothers. All mitochondria come from all mothers, all the way back to the first mother. And that's because sperm mitochondria self-destructs when the egg is fertilized, so all that's left is mom's mitochondria to be passed down. Little biology fun fact. Aging. All roads lead to mitochondria. This is part of the research that I was talking about in the last 15 years or so that's really made a huge difference to the longevity research. So the primary focus of a mitochondria is still making energy, but there seems to be a lot more that mitochondria control than just energy. But energy is huge, right? Energy gets us through the day. Otherwise, we're this. So energy is a main prime purpose of the mitochondria. We need energy to do our daily activities, but we also need energy to withstand the forces of time and wear and tear on our bodies and gravity, aging, all these things that we're trying to slow down. That's what mitochondria help us do over time. And when they fail, we age faster. But recently, there's all this new research about what mitochondria also do. And these are just quick studies in the last 1 year about the role of mitochondria in health, in disease, in inflammation, in aging, but also in all sorts of new areas that we never thought mitochondria were involved with, like diabetes, like spinal cord injuries, like traumatic brain injuries. And what that's doing is opening up a whole new area of research into how we can maybe treat and prevent diseases that were never before thought of. So nutritional support to help mitochondria stay healthy. Down the horizon, there'll be medications to help mitochondria stay healthy. And eventually, maybe transplanting mitochondria to help people regain motor skills after an accident where they've had a spinal cord injury or brain injury. All that's kind of interesting. So the research that we're going to talk about, the lifestyle changes we're going to talk about that help us with our health span come from research in these areas. So clearly, energy is the first most important role of mitochondria. But then we have fertility. It turns out that human eggs have the most mitochondria of any cell on the planet, upwards of 500,000 to 1 million mitochondria per cell. So fertility is hugely controlled by mitochondrial health. The brain takes up a small amount of room, but has a large impact and uses a lot of energy. And Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and brain injuries are all very hot areas of mitochondrial research right now. And the gut, the microbiome, the place where we have 10 times more bacteria than we have human cells, the place that is our second brain that communicates with our immune system, our microbiome and our mitochondria speak. They speak the same language. They're bacteria. And then our microbiome and our immune system are intimately connected, and it turns out that the effect of our mitochondria on our immune system is also huge, even though immune cells don't have a lot of mitochondria, but they're affected by the health of the overall body's mitochondria. And wherever the immune system is, inflammation goes. And there's a lot of research on mitochondria and inflammation as well. And then muscle, right? That makes sense, energy. So muscles require that the mitochondria can provide a burst of energy whenever we ask it to. We go from lying down sleeping to running a race, and mitochondria can handle that. The heart mitochondria, however, are very different. They require a steady energy production every single minute of the day, we hope, from before you are born till the day you die. So the mitochondria of the heart are being studied separately in heart disease and cardiovascular disease. And then, of course, aging, what we're talking about here, lifespan and aging, are also being big time looked into in terms of mitochondrial research. So before I tell you a little bit about this lifespan, these things, the 6 things that we can all do to improve our lifespan, let me tell you just a little bit about this energy theory that is this mitochondria. So every mitochondria has this system of membranes inside of it. And what a mitochondria does is it takes our food and makes our energy. So let's just talk about glucose, right? A sugar molecule. Mitochondria will take a sugar molecule inside and strip it right down to its most basic unit, its electrons. That's the energy of our food. And then they pass these electrons down this chain in these membranes and repackage that energy into little batteries. We call them ATP, but they're batteries. They're little batteries of portable energy. And then the mitochondria can let those little batteries of ATP out, and the cell can do its work. We can do our work. We can think and dance and create and sing. All the things that we do require energy. But these are electrons, right? Electrons, electricity, hot, burns, dangerous. Free radicals are from electrons. Damage to our DNA comes from electrons. So how does this little mitochondria withstand the damage of electrons on its membranes? Well, it has an innate system, nutritional system, to defend itself against the damage of these electrons. But it can be injured. And so the most important thing for protecting your mitochondria from this potential damage is the overall level of the antioxidants in your body, the overall level of them and the variety of them. That's the number one thing mitochondria need to stay healthy and not be damaged. Because the damaged mitochondria, like you see up there with very few membranes, cannot make enough batteries from your food. It makes way less than it should, and so you are more tired than you should be. So just before we get into these 6 great things that we can all do, just for the geeks and the science nerds in the room, just real quickly, I know there's a few of you, right? So the damage to our mitochondrial DNA and our mitochondria themselves accumulates over time. And so the ability of a mitochondria to make energy without harming itself from those electrons is key to our longevity. And when some damage does occur, because it does, sorry, there needs to be a healthy way for them to split off the damaged part and fuse together to make healthier and bigger mitochondria. And all of that comes together. The number of healthy mitochondria you have per cell signals not just that cell, but your whole body. It signals the whole body as to the health of your lifespan. If mitochondria are damaged very slowly, they can be absorbed, no problem. But if mitochondria are damaged suddenly, they explode. And a little bit of that mitochondrial DNA getting out, as I mentioned, can help promote some healing. But when a lot of mitochondrial DNA or contents spill out into the cell, especially if it spills out into the circulation, then you can get into trouble. And we think that maybe shock and multiple trauma, that's why sometimes we can't save people. There's been too many mitochondria damaged and released into the circulation. So, what are the 6 areas that we can talk about? Now that you have some background into what mitochondria are, there are 6 things we know from this science, from this research, that we can all do to help. So the first is our brain. Number 1 is sleep. You gotta sleep, folks. You gotta sleep at least 7 hours a night, or you will not have a healthy health span. It just can't happen. You also have to feed your brain. Your brain believes everything you tell it. So you have to feed it gratitude and joy, good thoughts, and balance the stress and negativity of the world if you're gonna have a good health span. I see my The third thing is exercise. Actually, any form of exercise is a wonderful anti-aging medication, if you will, habit. But there's two in particular that have data in terms of mitochondria and health span, and those two are endurance training and high interval training, HIIT. Those two seem to help mitochondria get stronger and bigger and healthier health span. But again, any exercise is better than none. The fourth is intermittent fasting and calorie restrictions. So calorie restriction has been shown in very controlled circumstances to improve health span by a lot. But the key is very controlled circumstances. The studies were done giving people optimal nutrition, just a smaller amount of calories. Intermittent fasting, same thing. I think everybody should do 12 hours on, 12 hours off. It's good for everybody to give your gut and your whole system 12 hours of not eating. Beyond 12 hours, you have to just be careful that you're getting enough food and enough good nutrition in the smaller amount of time that you're eating. Because if you're only eating 2 meals a day, it becomes even harder to get enough produce into your diet. The last two were about food. So antioxidant levels, I mentioned already, no surprise that having to eat a really rich Mediterranean plant-based diet is critical for health span. The data is huge on this. There's data on heart disease, on Alzheimer's, on inflammation. Almost anything you can think of in terms of a disease or a condition has evidence that the Mediterranean plant-based diet will help. And the last, again, is our microbiome. So feeding your microbiome, feeding your gut, good, healthy plant fibers are critical to having a good, long health span. So I'm going to let you guys focus on the top three: sleep, exercise, brain thinking, positive thinking. And I'm going to focus on the last three and give you some practical tips as to how we can really move this health span into a bigger time period. So the first, I think we talked about already, is plants. Casey did a great job. The importance of a plant-based diet, the colorful antioxidants just cannot be overstated. So eat a lot of colorful plants. Make more than half your plate produce, non-starchables. The current recommendation is 7 to 13 servings. Good luck. That means if you don't get 3 at each meal, you're already in trouble. So do that with a variety of plants, all the different colors of the rainbow, both raw and cooked every single day. That's key. The consistency of getting these nutrients in your body every day is key, because your mitochondria are working every second of the day, getting those electrons, and if they don't have protection, you're going to have damage. So the sad truth is that only 1 in 10 Americans get anything close to enough produce. So I am thrilled that I have been able to be eating Juice Plus capsules for about 20 years now. And it's funny to me because I was so cynical. I was so skeptical. I was cynical. I was rude. I said, you can't do this. This doesn't work. And then little by little, I came to understand that the company is committed to science, to integrity, to innovation, to doing things right, to small farms. And so I became more and more aware that this was something kind of special. And I read the research. And I understood that these wonderful fruit, vegetables, and berries that were grown so carefully by this company were processed in such a way that they get absorbed into the bloodstream, as Casey told us, and get into the cell. And that the cell then functions better. That's the ultimate in health and prevention. That's all that we need to do, is have a cell function better every single day. So the research is really what got me involved. And I could spend all day talking about the research, but fortunately, you won't have to listen to that. Casey already mentioned a few things, and there are over 42 now published studies looking at this research. It's nerd heaven. If you're a science geek, just reading these studies will teach you a lot about molecular biology and health, even if you don't understand certain parts of it. But just to not forget to mention a couple of quick things that I can't help but. The science does show a couple of things that are really, really important to note. The first is we have significant studies showing improvement in memory and cognitive ability. And then Casey mentioned the immune system and inflammation. There's also studies on postoperative healing and gum health and skin health and lung health. And this is the long list of benefits that have been proven over and over to be seen when people take Juice Plus versus placebo. And these are, of course, all randomized controlled clinical trials, the gold standard of research, published in major journals done by the top scientists in their field. The Healthy Starts Family Program was mentioned already, but the results that have been gathered for the last 20 years looking at these families on Juice Plus is very impressive. And if you have children and they're not taking Juice Plus, please look at the results of this Family Health Start study, because it's quite impressive. And what can I possibly say about towers that Stephen didn't just say, except that if you don't have one, you want one. I've had several, 2, 3, or 4. For many years, I grow indoors and out all year. The food tastes so much better. It's more nutritious. It's fresher than you can buy in a store, and it saved me a fortune over the years. So the second thing that you can do for your health span, the second, maybe the fourth we're up to, is your microbiome. So real quickly, your microbiome needs plant fiber to function. That's how it works. You give your body plant fiber, the microbiome in your gut digests it and makes stuff that we need, and then in turn keeps us healthier. And there's no way around that. This is just a study that was done and I thought was a really interesting tie-in between mitochondria and the microbiome. This just shows that when a healthy gut, oops, I'm on the wrong slide, sorry. When a healthy gut is giving good plant fibers, they make something called short-chain fatty acids, or butyrate. Butyrate's an important thing. We really need a lot of butyrate, and our microbiome is what makes our butyrate. And when we're given enough plant fibers to make butyrate, that signals the mitochondria, and in turn, that improves athletic performance. Much improved athletic performance. It's all connected, folks. We're all connected. And this is a study showing Juice Plus capsules, which we already know the microbiome loves, and adding Complete, the protein powder that's plant-based as well that we make. And when you put those two things together, the microbiome gets better. There's more variety in the microbiome, and we found that it makes more butyrate. Therefore, better athletic function and better health overall and health span. This is Complete. It's my breakfast. It's delicious. It's a great way to get more plants, more plant antioxidants, and a lot of fiber and slow burn carbs to last you all day. So the third and last thing we're going to talk about is calorie restriction and intermittent fasting. And as I mentioned, there's some risks to that. You have to be very careful that you get enough nutrition when you do this. And so there's a wonderful way to make that all come together. And that's a program called Shred 10. And Shred 10 was invented by my dear friend and brilliant colleague, Mitochondria, who's here somewhere. And it's just simply putting all of these 6 things together in a simple program that anyone can safely do. And it's about losing bad habits and gaining good ones. It's not about shredding anything particularly. It's about supporting your body in a healthy way. And there is a lot of support for people who want to do a Shred 10. There's cookbooks and support groups and all sorts of information to make it possible. And, you know, it doesn't have to be 10 days. Sorry, Mitra, but a 3-day shred is better than no shred. And a modified 10 days is better than none at all. Do what you can and build on that. So just to summarize, 6 things we can all do to improve our health span and our mitochondria's health in turn is to sleep 7 hours at least, to meditate, to use mindfulness, to balance stress and joy and feed your brain good, important information, to try for endurance exercise or any exercise at all, or high-intensity training. And then to reduce free radical damage and oxidative stress by eating a hugely colorful plant-based diet, and consider adding Juice Plus capsules to your diet to bridge that gap between what you do eat and what you think you should eat. And then feeding your microbiome more fiber, so adding, again, more plants, but also just Complete. Makes it easy. It's delicious and it solves a lot of problems, and now your microbiome is going to make more butyrate, and your athletic performance will improve, and so will your health span. And then lastly, caloric restriction or intermittent fasting with the Shred 10 program makes it safe and doable for everybody. And so those are the 3 new things that you can add to the 3 other things to help your health span improve. So I wish you all a long health span, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you.